Boys, how we doing? Another podcast?
Boys.
Scotty, you're over there in
TMG.
Queensland?
Yeah, up in Broadbeach, man.
Living the dream
Nice.
this
How is it
guy.
down there? Up there.
It's beautiful, man. I'm just looking out on the balcony now, and the waves are rolling in. It's 32 today, sunny. It literally has been picturesque. I was saying to you boys off air before just how I can see why people want to live up here. It's literally perfect. It's light at 5 a.m. Everyone's in active wear. It's crazy. It's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well,
How
you remember when the
keep?
three... Yeah, good, man. Do you remember when the three of us went up to Brizzy for Nationals? It was like the same thing. We were like,
Yeah, crazy.
this is pretty cool. We could get used to it.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. But
Yeah,
Scotty, we missed you at the show on the weekend.
Oh,
We're going to try to get some of your input on it, but we obviously MG and I were there. We're going to talk a fair bit about it.
yep.
We've got a lot of questions about the show, but what I want to do is I want to just talk about the show itself, the new venue, what our thoughts were, areas for improvement, and then we're going to go through each category, just the open lineup. We're only really going to cover female fitness, sports, bikini, and then men's fitness and physique. They're the ones that we all saw.
Sure.
The other ones we weren't able to see as much because we're backstage looking after peeps. And I know a lot of people listen to this on Spotify, but if you are listening on YouTube, I'm actually going to bring up the lineups. I'm going to be using Facebook, just the ICN page, because they actually have the placing lineup. But if you're following along at home on Spotify, you can jump on Facebook or you can jump on Instagram on the ICN Victoria page, and it actually has the lineups, and I will call out which one I'm looking at if you do want to go and have a look at it. But let's kick it off, MG, and just talk about the venue. So it was a new venue, CRC out in Caroline Springs. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, man. I had a great day, first of all. I thought it was a really good overall show. And definitely like the change of venue. Far more positives than there are negatives. And believe me, as a promoter, I understand trying to get everything spot on the first go is like really, really difficult. But I thought they did a very good job. I thought they managed it really, really well. The venue itself, I want to say the pump-up area for the athletes was phenomenal. It was a whole basketball court.
Yeah,
Not only was it a whole basketball court, everything was really spread evenly. There was chairs in the middle, chairs on the outside, so you could sit all the way around the outside. Space wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
But it was obviously air conditioned as well. So the temperature for me was perfect backstage as a coach.
And it was hot outside too.
Yeah, it was 32 outside, and none of my athletes were too cold or too hot. So
yeah,
from that sense, the pump-up area was awesome, and like the amount of space was phenomenal. Right? You can imagine a whole basketball court was huge. So awesome job there. Side stage pump-up area was awesome. So it's basically like a similar to a dance studio room with mirrors. Yes. Actually, it was a dance studio room because there was a ballet pole there. Mm-hmm. So you could see yourself while you were pumping up. Plenty of room for coaches and athletes, which was great. So I was a big fan of that. The actual venue itself, the seating was good. Probably could have gone with a little bit more seats. It did get like pretty packed, and people were sitting on stairs and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously, the size of the stage. I think Tony did a really good job managing that on the day as well, because they did have some big lineups of 15 and 16. I think next time, they'll probably split some divisions into maybe more height classes to get them, because I think it was in the men's physique, which I had a guy in that, there was 16 on stage and they just couldn't fit them on the stage. But, at the end of the day, until you've done it once, you just don't know. So, once you've made the decision to have one lineup, you kind of got to run with it. You're not really making changes on the day. And I totally understand that. So I thought they did a good job to manage that. So I think other than maybe splitting lineups and the stage being a little bit bigger, I think everything else about the venue was great. I loved the lighting. Yeah. I definitely loved the way the music was managed. The sound of the music was really good this time around. They didn't go too loud. I think sometimes it can be too loud at Moonee Valley. I thought the music was loud. A couple of times just couldn't quite hear the judges on the mic calling turns and stuff. So maybe whether that was just the microphone volume as one thing. But, man, overall, I say, and guys, obviously remember, I run an opposing federation in the same state. I thought they did a really, really good job on the first show there, and they'll take some points away from that, as I do at every show of ours, and no doubt it'll be better on the next one. But it was a great effort. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was good. I spoke to Tony afterwards, and I actually spoke to him on the phone the next day to get some feedback, or he wanted some feedback. And all those positives that you mentioned, I mentioned to him. But we did cover the splitting the lineups. They were too big. And on the day, he actually apologized on the microphone. He said,
he did a few times.
First time doing this, we need to split them up next time. And he said it. He called it out. So that's perfectly fine. He understands that. So we had a chat about that, about making the lineups a little bit smaller because they can probably fit maybe a maximum of 8 to 10
Yeah,
guys.
I reckon eight's like the perfect amount, and everyone gets just a good amount of space.
Yeah. And then we
Yeah.
spoke about the microphone volume and the judging mic, and his mic need to be a little bit louder. And that was about it. And I think what they're going to do next time is they have a bit of a room behind the back of the podium. So they're going to shift everything back. Podium's going to go back, and the line of where they stand on is going to go back. And then the judging table's going to come forward so that they can have more seating.
Yeah, they just needed a few more rows, didn't they?
Yeah, add a few more rows. And then so also there's a pathway for people to walk across the other side of the venue, and they can actually sit down because it was hard to get across the other side if you want to sit on the other side. So
for sure.
Other than that, it was good. Some people mentioned about the lighting. The lighting itself was great, but if you were taking footage on your iPhone or something, it just didn't come out good. Like, it just wasn't good. If you had a professional camera, it was fine. But like, if you try to take photos of someone with your iPhone or something, it looked a little bit yellow. But on the actual day, the way the lighting was in real life,
in person was good. Yeah,
it was really, really good.
Yeah. I think the other thing, man, which, as we were arriving, I sort of heard a few people being like, oh, the stage is flat. It's the same level as the judges.
Yes.
But I thought that was totally fine. I think, like you mentioned, if it was just a little bit further back, which sounds like they're going to do. But guys, you've got to remember, if you're in the 9th, 10th or 11th row of an auditorium, you're already higher than the athletes anyway. So raising them up a meter isn't really going to change anything for 3/4 of the crowd.
No.
So it didn't really affect it. I just, at times the athletes were like 1 meter away from the crowd.
Yes.
Like on the sides there. So just push it back a bit, and I reckon it's great.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, it was great. I think just to start off the year with that rookie show, I think the level of competition was great for that type of show. The lineups were decent. So yeah, I was happy with how everything went, and I thought it was a great start to the season, to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man.
What I want to move into now, if we're ready to go, we'll start talking about the lineups. So we'll start talking about fitness first. Now I'm going to share my screen and get this bad boy going. So just bear with me 1 second. So I'm on Facebook at the moment. I'm going to scroll down to, I'm just going to move this to the side. So I'm just going to scroll down to where fitness was. So in fitness, we're just going to go to the open. We're just going to talk open. So I'll open up this photo. So this is a photo of the lineup, rookie fitness model open, if people are playing at home. So there was 4 in that lineup. I had Amy in that lineup, something that, I don't know if you saw socials, but we decided to put her in the show about a week out because she knew how to pose. She had been posing practice since last year sometime. And I thought that her physique, her shape and her condition was comparable for what they would want in a show like this, and also for the caliber of competition that normally happens at a show like this. So we're about to give feedback on everyone. I just want to say straight out that I actually agree with all the judging decisions and all the winners. But we're going to comment on giving everyone feedback, positive and things for improvement. So we're just looking to really help people out here, not to call anyone out or to put anyone down. It's really just for improvement. And I'm really going to come at it as a lens of what the ideal look would be for that division. So the ideal fitness model, the ideal sports model, and so on and so forth, right? So we've got to understand that this is the first show of the year. It is a first timer or someone that really hasn't competed that much. So generally the caliber of competition is not going to be of a standard of a pro show or something that's a bigger show in season A or a bigger show in season B. That's just the way it is, but it does not take it away from anyone's physique and how amazing everyone looked. So if we look at the fitness lineup here with the 4 girls on the podium, now I've actually spoken to Molly. She's in the pink on the end. She got 4th, and she actually reached out for some feedback. So I'm happy to give her feedback right now. I think she had great stage presence. Her posing was really, really good. She flowed well. She smiled all the time. Areas for improvement. I can see the reason why she's standing in that front pose, because she actually has dominant quads in comparison to her glutes. So I think that in future, work on the glutes a little bit more. You'll be able to stand like the front pose that Amy's in on the top spot there. and you'll be able to have that good balance between that quad development and the glute development. But I totally understand the reason why she's standing in that position. She has really broad shoulders and a really good structure. I would just say keep developing that. We want to keep developing that X frame, right? So big, broad shoulders, roundness through the delts, width through the back, small waist, which she does have, and she keeps it nice and tight through her posing, which is great. And then you've already got the quads. You can work on them still a little bit more, but definitely bring up the glutes to balance those quads out because your quads are pretty strong there. But yeah, she did absolutely amazing. The lady that was in third, she was definitely the leanest on the day. I think with her, more glute development too would definitely do her justice, but she had a great physique, and she was definitely the leanest in the best condition on the day. The lady that came second, I believe her name was Megan. Great shape, great muscle mass, amazing.
Definitely,
And she's only young. I think she was in the under 23 since she won that. So
Amazing.
for her, it's just continuing to work on that conditioning.
For sure, man.
I would say continue to work on those proportions. You can, her quads were very big, in a good, I mean that in a good way. So therefore, just balance it out with the size in the glutes.
Yeah, and for her as well, man. Like if you look at her, she looks like pretty proportion there.
Yeah.
If there was a little bit more detail through the quad, and if you look at say her side oblique profile to Amy's, where it's really, really visible in Amy's, which really separates the top of the X frame from the bottom. So a little bit tighter through the quad and a little bit tighter through that midsection. And it's just a different look again. But if she's in under 23, she's got a big, bright future, man. Yeah,
she looked amazing. And I actually went up to her afterwards and I said, you look absolutely amazing. Keep doing what you're doing because you looked great.
Sure. Yeah, awesome work.
And then for Amy, I'm just going to go straight to the things I think she needs to improve on because that's what I want to keep working on with her. Her level of conditioning is great, but not where I want it to be at the top level of fitness. I really want to get her a lot leaner, especially in that lower half, and have that glute ham tie-in. That's what we're really trying to search for with her, whilst trying to keep that fullness, because her shape is still there. We don't want to lose any mass. We want to keep her nice and full, but just get that detail in the back of the glutes. And you could probably tell that was evident on the day. She was not the leanest, as I said, the lady that was in third was the leanest, but just Amy had that X-frame, that shape, and the second most conditioned on the day. So overall, she just had the better package, but doesn't mean she was the best everywhere. So that's the kind of things we want to keep working on.
For sure, yeah. But she just does have beautiful shape and just like really, really mature muscle bellies as well, man. Like when you stand next to her in person, from glutes all the way to the delts, they just look like, strong developed muscle bellies. So that obviously held her in really good stead. But yeah, just a really good fitness lineup. So congratulations to all of them.
Let's move on to sports. I'll scroll up to here we go. So this is so everyone watching at home, I'm on rookie sports model, the lineup on stage, on the podium. Now, MG, I believe your new Peep is in second place there. Is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Yep. So we'll get to that in a second. But I think that, the winner that won that division in first place, she was absolutely amazing. She was definitely the best and looked like the appropriate sports model for the day. In general, because there was more bikini girls, for the whole day, that means that sports model had more bikini over fitness girls. So the lady that came third, she was also the one that came third in fitness. But all the rest were bikini girls. I think the one that came fourth was sports only.
Yep.
But I think for the winner, I think her level of conditioning was great for that division there for the sports. She has great quad and hamstring development, like really thick for the quads and hams. So therefore, she needs to grow her glutes to balance that out. And you can kind of see that in that front shot right there, compared to second place, where they just have that big glute pop, right? Where she doesn't have that pop because her hamstrings are so big. Like you can see in that there. Actually, let me try to zoom in. There you go, right? So I'm zooming in right in on that. You can see that. Like her hammies are really developed, right? Like they're really sticking out.
Well, they're getting equal width to the glute.
So they're really getting equal projection as the glute. So she really needs to work. She actually has really big glutes, but it loses its pop because everything else is so big. So that's what I'd recommend for her to work on a little bit more. And then, you can always have a little bit more width through the top, right? Through that, through the shoulders and through the upper. But yeah, definitely a clear winner there in comparison to all the other girls. Maybe MG, you want to talk about, is it Ash that came second?
Yeah, so Ash obviously in second place, who I'm coaching, who I helped on the day. And like we discussed backstage, she's got a beautiful package, nice and symmetrical top to bottom, just missing a little bit of detail through the legs. And we spoke about from where quad is on the side pose there, just to see a little bit of separation and a little bit of glute to hamstring tie-in as well, which, is what we're going to focus on between that show and the next show. And of course, she's 22, so this is her first show, and she's already quite developed, so she's got a big future too. If we can just get a little bit wider through the back as well, and a little bit more volume to the delts, then she's going to do well. But the difference from sort of second to first was definitely just some detail through the leg. If some of the poses that the first place got in, she actually showed a little bit of striation through the glute as well. I'm not sure if you noticed that, MT, at times. Yeah. But the quad detail was just far more evident and was a little bit wider in the back shot too. So there was definitely enough to warrant the difference between first and second. Yeah. And as you said earlier, pretty much everything on the day, in my opinion, was spot on. There's some divisions where you could say you could switch first and second around, or it could go either way, but everything was pretty spot on. So, but definitely enough in that one. From lower body, obviously Ash in second place had a really nice midsection with like a very visible six pack at times, which we tried to hide during bikini. I think we did our best to do that, and probably they're equal through the shoulder, but just a little bit more width in number one and a little bit more detail in the legs in the lower half as well. Third, obviously, nice and peeled, same in fitness. And even fourth had great condition as well. And then good shape on fifth as well. And probably just a little better conditioning on fifth. We'll see her do even better as the season progresses as well, coming a bit tighter.
So pretty much all those girls there went into bikini, except for third place. She was in fitness, and fourth place was sports only. Yeah. She only dedicated herself to sports.
Yeah. So first place went into bikini as well.
Yeah. She did. And I believe she didn't place, but we're going to see in a second.
Or if she did, it was like fifth or fourth. So
yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So as you can see, guys, like our common theme here is that X frame, right? That X shape, broadness, taper, glutes, balance, quads, right? Like it's similar through fitness, bikini, sports. It's just the how much it's exaggerated. Their level of conditioning development just changes between the categories.
Yeah. And can I just say that 1 and 2 are both under 23s?
Oh, you're right too. Yeah.
Yeah, 1 and 2 both under 23s because they were the top two. Ash and the winner there were also 1 and 2 in the 23s. So
yeah. Okay, let's go on to bikini. So I'll just scroll up here.
How wild was the crowd for bikini and physique?
Oh, it's crazy.
Men's physique
I'll just bring up, that's the full lineup for bikini open rookie. So how is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So that's the winner there in the red.
That's 11.
The winner's in the middle.
There we go. So the winner in sports did not place in bikini.
In the red. That's what I'm saying. That girl there. She could be doing. Look at the size of her glutes and her quads. She should be in fitness. Yeah. So as I said before, like her quads are massive, her hammies are massive. She just needs that glute projection a bit more because of the quads being that size and the hammy being that size. She just needs that glute projection a little bit more there. But yeah, she's got broadness through the shoulders. And I was going to say, this is where, for people listening, sometimes when you get someone really conditioned, it gives you some insight in terms of where the gaps are in your physique. So, for example, a girl like this programming in the off season, if it was me working with someone like her, she would have very minimal quad volume within her periodization, and there would be a heavily weighted focus toward glutes. And it's a matter of bringing up that area because the quads just don't need that extra attention. So just because everyone says you need 10 to 12 working sets minimum a week per muscle group, if you're in a position like that where you're heavily dominant in one area of your body, you can definitely pull back on volume and then distribute it elsewhere. In this case, she definitely would, because even looking at her shoulders, if this girl's under 23, she's got crazy potential.
Yeah, I just zoomed in on her there.
Yeah. That's crazy. Like a little bit more conditioning, some bigger glutes, like you're doing damage in a fitness lineup.
Yeah, 100%. She's got great taper. Like you can see her lats in the front there. She's got the good taper into the waist. Yeah, she's looking good there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, she probably should have went into fitness, and she probably would have placed fairly well. She may have placed like a third or a second. Yeah.
Yeah, well, her physique, I mean, the three girl, I mean, for me, Amy was a standout, but
Yeah.
second and third, I think you'd have to see them up against each other and obviously see them through their quarters to be able to know where they're at. But she definitely would have been on the podium in fitness for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I just wanted to call out. We had someone reach out, also wanted feedback. Her name was Tian. She's actually on the end here in the pink bikini, blonde hair. I'll zoom in on her a little bit. So I did take a look because she did ask for some feedback. She was another one with great quad development, right? So then the issue was there is she needed to balance that out in the glutes. So that's what I'd be working on in the off season. But she had good structure, really, really good structure. Her posing was great. She kept a smile on her face the whole time. She looked like she was enjoying herself, which is awesome. I really just think more glute development, improve on the conditioning a little bit more, and improve on the back width a little bit more. Because her quads are so big, you need to balance out the upper to be wider. Because whenever you hit your front poses or even your back pose, because in your back pose, you've got to understand you can also see your quads because the quads flare out from the sides. So if you haven't got that width in your back, you're going to look a little bit out of proportion from top to bottom. So, but she looks great. So hopefully she comes back and she keeps improving because she did really, really well.
Yeah, great.
What I want to do is go to the shot is just the top 5. Here it is here. Okay, so this is the Bikini Open Rookie top 5 only on the podium if anyone's following at home. So Michael, we've got your girl there in 4th.
Yeah.
And so we can talk about that in a second. But we had the winner, obviously there in the middle. I think the top 2 were the most conditioned out of the whole bikini lineup compared to everyone else. So they were definitely the most conditioned. Second place was the most conditioned, and then first place was her condition was just below that. Still great condition. And she's another one that has amazing quad development and probably needs to match that with glute development from a projection perspective. So you can even see here, if I zoom in on first and second, second has that glute pop, right? So she has okay quad development. It's not as big as the first place winner, but then you can see she's got better proportions then. Whereas the first place has good quad development, but then needs to work on that glute to have that balance. So it's like a blessing and a curse. You've got great mass in one muscle group, need to balance that in another muscle group. But from the back, she had good like width in her glutes, if that makes sense. So you've got side projection and then you've got width, right? So you want a bit of both. So that's where it comes into play where, we've got to hit the glutes from all angles. We've got to do all our abduction work and kickback work and then do all our thrust and those kind of things. So we've got to make sure that we hit it from all angles because we're looking at projection plus width from the back. But other than that, I thought that the second place, if she wasn't as lean as what she was and a little bit fuller, it would have been a real close battle. You can almost see a reason why she might overtake first if she wasn't as lean. Because you can almost see in this shot here, she actually has better proportions when you look at it, right? Like her shoulder width to waist to glute to quad is actually more extreme than the winner in this shot, and you can kind of see that there. But the winner just had more broadness through the shoulders, right? Because she's bigger in general, she has more mass in general, and her conditioning was great for bikini. It wasn't too far, and it wasn't too less. So it was actually really, really good. So she obviously had the best physique on the day. But as we kind of said, all these people have areas for improvement, and if anyone was to bring this exact package to a later show in season A, they may not place where they placed at this show because it does get more competitive. So if any of these girls that we're reviewing, if they are doing a later season A show, make sure you try to work on those things that we're discussing because it will just get more competitive as the season progresses. MG, do you want to talk about Ash in 4th?
Yeah, I was also say like the top 2 definitely were standouts, but it was like a really good top 5 all around. I think we've all been to like rookie shows over the past 5 years, and sometimes it's a bit of a mixed bag, and it's like gone for a softer, rounder look. But I thought the conditioning from, virtually all the girls in the top 5 here was like spot on for bikini. And yes, maybe a little one way or the other, but for the most part, all the girls' condition were really good. And it was, for me, a really traditional bikini look.
Yeah.
And you guys know I love this division. It was a very traditional bikini look, that one. First and second obviously look amazing. I actually really love the winner from the back. I was sitting on the side and then I was sitting behind, so I got to see it from both angles. And obviously the width on the glutes from the back, which you mentioned earlier, for me was like, that was what I couldn't take my eye off. That was the winning thing for me, was that width of the glute, which stood out. And obviously enough detail in that front shot there to show that there is a little bit of separation from where quad goes into the rear of the leg and the hamstring and stuff. But I did like that versus midsection. I thought was nice and tight. I liked her side oblique profile, and obviously she had enough through the delt as well, which was good. And second, very, very similar, a little bit more condition, a really, really good X-frame, and it could have easily gone either way for 1 or 2.
And I think that's a good point about the back shot, and I think that's what really got her the win in the end. Because in that front shot, you can see it's very comparable, right? You can go either way, because the second place looks like she actually has a better front shot from an X-frame perspective. But then in that back shot, you're right. She's got such good width in her glutes and development through her quads, right? Is you see the quads from the back, right? So she's got that flare, that whole X-frame, plus a small waist, then broadness to the shoulders. Hard to beat, right?
Yeah, hard to take your eyes off in that shot as well. But they were both definite standouts, great physiques. And like, in my opinion, that is a great bikini look. So I'm really glad that ICN went down that path for the winners. 3 and 4 as well. Obviously, Ash in 4th place. I think Ash actually had the most amount of muscle, or the roundest glute.
She did, definitely had the roundest glutes.
Yeah, she had the roundest glutes, which was super, super evident in a few shots. Just look at the pop there in terms of how far out the glute comes versus everyone else. And as I spoke about in an earlier division, if we could just get a little bit leaner and see maybe a little bit more glute to hamstring tie-in and maybe a line down the side of the leg there, then, she's going to do better as well. And obviously a little bit fuller through the shoulders, Ash, would be amazing too. And, very similar to 3. 3, again, good condition, a little bit more glute pop and a little bit more detail in the side, similar to Ash. He's also going to do really, really well. And then 5, I think if 5th just comes in with a little bit better conditioning as well, she'll probably see herself placed better as well. But I'm really happy with that as a quality standard for a top 5 for the rookie show, first show of the season. And I definitely like the winner. I think represents Bikini very well at a rookie show. I think she's got a great package. She should be really proud of herself.
Yeah, and one thing that we got a couple of questions on was, are they going for a leaner looking bikini now? And going by this, it looks like they are.
Yeah.
And I quite like, because we had that controversy last year where Victoria was going for a soft bikini look, and then the girls in Victoria were going to Queensland. The ones that were leaner were winning over the ones that were less conditioned. Yeah. So looking at this is more of a New South Wales, Queensland kind of look, condition, which I hope Victoria stays that way, because then we have more, it's more standardized, to be honest. But I actually like this look a little bit better, to be honest. So like that little bit more detail. You start to see the quad line, the quad and the hamstring separation in that front pose. Right, so that detail that 1st and 2nd has, and then you can start to see a bit more capping through the shoulders and not as smooth as maybe like 3rd and 5th, right? So I actually like, if they leave this level of conditioning for bikini, especially for the 1st place winner, I think her conditioning was on point. 2nd place, I think a little bit too lean. She actually had glute hand tie-ins in her back pose, which you don't need that. It may have actually affected her placing because she was a bit too lean. You could see it like a tie-in. So I like the direction that bikini is going. Obviously, from this conditioning perspective, and as we kind of said, is all these girls look amazing. They have things to work on to be more competitive in future shows, for sure.
For sure. And then it's obviously federation different. Like, to give you a bit of an idea, like seconds conditioning at A and B is probably where we want it, right?
Yep.
So we want a little bit of glute hamstring tie in A and B. We want you to be a little bit leaner. So you've also, as a coach, got to pick your mark for each federation and each show, and make sure that you're trying to match conditioning with what the judges are looking for that specific show.
Yeah. Any more on bikini?
Scotty?
Good.
No.
Scotty?
But he's like, let's talk about physique. He's ready to go.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right,
No,
let's
I
go
mean, it's
to-
hard because obviously these divisions, I wasn't really there. So.
Yeah. Let's go to. Let's do fitness.
Yeah.
So men's fitness open rookie lineup.
Yeah.
Here's the lineup, MG. Man, I'm going to get you to talk about this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
so you can see that. Hopefully
Yeah.
that's a bit clearer now.
Yeah. And Scotty, chime in at any time. But definitely from first place, who's actually a really, really great guy. I actually met him in the gym at Preston just when we were training as a group. He came up and said hello. But
I've met him a couple of times. Awesome guy.
Awesome guy. Coaches himself, I think, did a great job. And I just definitely the best all rounder. Size top to bottom, condition, midsection, chest, delts, back was definitely like the best in terms of symmetry, proportions. His quads were great. You can see there, other than our guy who's in fourth, who was probably the most peeled. He was definitely the best across all markers and a worthy winner of the overall, like no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And then if you sort of go down the list, it's sort of, you can see just bits and pieces that are great and then bits and pieces that are missing. So, if we look at second and third, probably great up top, great level of leanness. Second, a little bit leaner in the legs than third, which is probably the only difference between the two of them. If they had equal conditioning through the legs, they would have been really hard to separate, because if you look at the upper bodies, pretty similar in size, maybe a little bit of extra mass in third in the chest, a little bit leaner for second position, but that brought his legs out a little bit more. And then fourth, obviously, which is our guy Damo, who's at 55, was crazy. Honestly, yeah, man, was definitely the most conditioned and looked absolutely insane. So fourth in the open, and we were so proud of him. And you know what? You know, it was the most amazing thing. Just, I know he had the best day. I never saw him without a smile. And yeah, to bring that condition in at 55, we're just so proud of his efforts. And then Fifth's got a great physique. I just think he missed his category. I think he was more of a physique guy. Yeah. He looked, on stage, he looked 10 kilos heavier than the rest of the guys. And that's just one pose there. So that's not telling you everything. He wasn't as conditioned through the legs, but he had far more mass in the upper body. His arms were, virtually double anyone else on stage.
Yeah. I saw him backstage as a big boy.
Yeah. So I think he probably just missed the division. I think he would have been better suited in board shorts. Because his legs aren't in as well, it would have covered that and just shown a more leaner upper body. So I think he just missed his mark. But he was probably the biggest. But definitely, I reckon that's a pretty good pick of what the top five is, man. And the good thing is, if you look at the rest of the lineup, you look at 6, 7, and 8, there was no one on stage, which happens sometimes in fitness. There was no one on stage who didn't look like they put the work in. Everyone there is, reasonably lean. Obviously, everyone can pretty much improve on conditioning a little bit, but everyone had a good amount of muscle tissue. Probably conditioning was the thing that needed to improve through the whole division, bar probably the winner and number 1, 2, and 4. I reckon everyone else could have improved conditioning.
Yeah. Do you want to move on, Scotty? Anything there from what you can see?
No, I actually saw second and third. So both of those guys' coaches are my athletes. So Anthony and Ethan. Ethan works with the guy who's second. I actually spoke to Ethan yesterday just about how he was asking some questions about managing the guy that placed second in terms of going into those upcoming shows. But from what I can tell, the pictures that I've seen from the guys that have sent them to me, second's conditioning is phenomenal. He's actually got striated glutes, so he's pretty dialed in. But obviously, when you get to that point, you look at the guy who's first, and and even the Anthony's guy who came third, just a bit fuller, a bit more size. But I think the guy that's on top, they definitely got it right. His conditioning is great. He's a bit bigger. The only thing I'd say is maybe just posing wise, like that front pose, it probably doesn't enhance his physique as say if he was leaning a little bit more like, say, second and third. You can see the way that they're presenting their physique. So I think as the shows goes on and, when we get to the Melbournes and you're going up against a higher standard, potentially, you want to make sure that your posing's on point, because sometimes if you've got two athletes and they look very similar, but one presents better than the other in terms of the way they display their physique, then posing will always supersede someone who looks awesome, but potentially doesn't display it, to their best of their ability. Granted, I wasn't there and I didn't see all of the quarter turns, but I'm just looking at a front on relaxed pose. I think the guys that are sitting second and third are posing a little bit better.
Yeah. move on to physique. What do you think, guys?
Yep.
I'll scroll down and find that. This one here. Here we go.
Yeah. And guys, just to recap, we're not doing classic and bodybuilding because we don't like those divisions. We just didn't see them. So
yeah. All right, take us through it, MG.
Yeah, man. Honestly, like a great lineup for like a rookie physique show. But if we just say look at the top, well, let's just go top three, right? 1 versus 2 and 3 were obviously very different. So number one's muscularity was insanely good. Symmetry was amazing. Condition was phenomenal. But like I thought he could have easily maybe been in a different division too. Like if his legs were equal to his upper body, there'd be no reason him standing in a bodybuilding lineup would look out of place, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Because he just had all the elements of a complete physique above the waist.
Yeah.
So obviously it was going to be hard to beat in a pair of board shorts. And particularly, you know, if you look at 2 and 3, you know, quite a bit taller, which obviously lengthens the physique out a little bit. But the size, the condition on the guy who placed second, I was a big fan of his physique, as I was of obviously first place as well. But the top 3 were clear standouts.
Yeah. And as we can see there, that the guy that won fitness actually is placing off to the side here. He didn't actually hit the podium. He's in the white on the left.
Second from the left, yeah.
Yeah.
So
and you had your guy in there, MG.
Yeah, so my guy's second from the right. So again, another youngie under 23s who came second in the 23s out of 6 or 7. But just a really good lineup across the day. And I know a lot of these guys, you know, the first show, but the quality of the physique for some first show athletes was insane. And funnily enough, MT, you saw the winner backstage. You saw him on stage and side stage, right? He was in the under 70s. So that's under 70 kilos, which I was just mind blown. And I know Benny Hightongue preps him. So obviously condition was always going to be spot on. But if his legs were brought up, he would not look out of place in a bodybuilding lineup.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he had great muscle bellies for sure, that guy.
So I thought that second was, for me, a more typical physique guy of what I thought physique represents.
Yeah.
So, but again, first had the best muscularity, right? Yeah. Definitely. So again, always going to be hard to beat with a look like that. But again, really impressive. And you look at the conditioning, you know, really 1 to 5 was a standout. My boy on the right, we knew that we were 3 or 4 kilos off the mark before we went in. So we were just competing and wanted to experience and get some nerves out. And then obviously the guy who won fitness, his conditioning was on point, but just lacked in the size. So again, pretty spot on with the judging. They were super consistent with their decisions all day. But that physique one's always going to be a tough one. When you've just got a big muscly guy who puts some board shorts on, he's always going to look phenomenal. So, and he's got an incredible physique. So he's another one who has a very bright future, man.
Which is the fitness guy that won?
The second from the right.
Over here in the white shorts.
Oh, I was going to say, looking at him, yeah. That side shot looks pretty good. Love to see his chest in midsection, but obviously just didn't quite have the size to some of those other boys.
Yeah,
they were some big boys. Yeah,
they're big boys. They'll be definitely big boys.
Yeah, second and third look like they're pretty decent size.
Actually, the guy that came 5th, he was decent too. He was decent size for sure.
Yeah, he was, man. And fourth conditioning was awesome as well, man.
Yeah.
So,
all right, boys. I think we've done them all. That was good. Like, that was fun. You know, what's so interesting is there's so many different physiques. So you can see now, if anyone's watching, like, it's not easy to judge, right? And I think they did the right thing. But sometimes there's different physiques. Like this lineup here is definitely a representation of that. Like, there's a lot of different sizes and shapes in this lineup here. Yeah. So it's hard to judge. And you know what's going to happen is these guys may do the next show, and there'll be other people in there too. And then they need to rejudge everything again, right? So it really makes me excited, to be honest, because I love just watching lineups and just seeing what, you know, people go against each other and just see what comes out on top. It's absolutely awesome.
And can I also just give a special mention to the lovely lady who is a listener of ours who won figure, Mel.
Yes. Mel,
yes. Yeah, so she came up to me backstage. She was delightful. She won figure. I don't know if you got to see her physique, MT.
I did. Yeah, I did.
But she was super, super impressive, very impressive athlete. And obviously a listener of the show. So thanks for listening. Thanks for coming up and saying hi. And congratulations. You looked freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, she looked amazing. It was actually funny because she was on just before fitness.
Yeah.
So I came into the crowd and waiting for fitness to start. So I watched figure.
Yeah.
And her family was right next to me, and they were
that's
just
awesome.
like, yeah, they were loving it. They were absolutely loving it. It was really cool. And her I think it was her kids were there too. So yeah, it was awesome. It was so good. That's what I love about that show is there's so many, like, majority first timers, all their family and friends are there. The crowd's just going crazy. Everyone just wants to get photos with the competitors. It's so cool. And there's no expectations going to that show. You're a winner just getting there for your first one.
Sure, man.
So,
for sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, and if you're someone who competed and you didn't place, please don't be disheartened. Like, hopefully all it does is give you the motivation to keep on pushing. And, we speak about this all the time. Like, we have athletes that, we coach who, on their 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th show achieve the ultimate success. And if you look at their first picture to their 7th picture, like a Bridget, for example, hers is always my favorite because, her first show, even her posing to her pro show win is like, it's like two different human beings, right? So stay patient, do it for the love of the sport. Don't do it for the success. Don't do it just for the trophy. Do it because you love living the lifestyle. And just make sure that every time you go back that you're just a little bit better than you were last time, because you don't know what you're comparing yourself to. You might have been training for 1 year. The guy next to you's been training for 6. It's just you versus you. And I think that's something that as coaches, the three of us always push and spread because you just can't control who shows up on the day. So just remember why you started.
Yeah, definitely. And just a point on the winners. So if you're a winner, and you are going to compete in a later show, still have an underdog mentality, because we've seen it before where someone wins and they go into the next show, it's more competitive, they don't win, and then they set themselves up for failure. And it's a bit of a downhill spiral. So if you're going into another show later in the season and you are someone that plays really, really well, just think it's a reset. It's a new bunch of people. It's going to be competitive. Go in as an underdog and just see how you go. And that's exactly what I told Amy. I said, we've still got heaps to do. We've still got heaps to do, and it's going to be competitive. So, amazing win, but we've got to keep putting in the work. So just be really careful of that. And coaches need to be careful of that too, whenever they're talking to their clients, to make sure that they instill that in them. Because otherwise, it'll really affect them if they don't do well, like really affect them. And we've seen that before. And also too is going into shows, be really careful with how you communicate with clients. Like, as you know, me, MG, like, I never tell anyone they're going to win. Like, never tell them how they're going to place, how they're going to win. Even if I'm like 90% sure they're going to do really, really well, I just never tell them, because I don't know. When I know they're going to win? When there's no one left to call out, and they're going to call, and they're the only ones that haven't been placed yet. That's when I know they're going to win, right?
Even then, man, I still find a way to doubt myself. I'm like, maybe there's someone hiding.
So, like, for instance, I'll tell the story because Amy will have a laugh. We were there on a day, and she was worried about some other people that were there, and she's like, "Oh, look at the one in the green," and I'm like, "You're fine. It's all good. It's all good." And I knew that Amy looks better than them, but I would never say that to her because I think that, but do the judges think that? Who knows, right? And even to the point, and I laughed with her later about this, is when we went to the pump-up room, I actually positioned her in a way so that she couldn't look at the competitor she was worried about when she pumped up. So we stood in front of that competitor. So that competitor could see Amy, but Amy couldn't see her because I didn't want it to get in her head, right? And when I said to her later, I said, "Do you realize what I did?" She's like, "No." I was like, "Do you see where I placed you in the pump-up room to not get in your head?" She's like, "Oh my God." Had no idea. I was like, even though I knew you were going to do well, I'm never going to tell you, right? Because I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to do everything to protect you, to make sure that you can stay focused. And she's like, "Yeah, you never gave me anything. I didn't even know if I looked any good. You never told me anything." I was like, "Yeah, because I got to set you up for success, not for failure, right?" So coaches just got to be aware of that too. And even family and friends need to be aware of it. When you're telling someone that's leading into a show, because all the gym bros are going to tell you that you look amazing, you're going to win, right? But just try to put that aside because you never really know. You're never 100% sure until, you're the last one standing and they haven't called your number yet. right?
Yeah. Can we just also bring one thing up, which is let's bring this up and put it to bed for everybody once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
There were 36 divisions on Saturday. And remember all the controversy last year about posing coaches and someone being a judge, and that posing coach, who was not a judge, had 19 out of 36 winners, and she wasn't on the judging panel. So for anyone who still has any belief of any of that shit, that should shut you up forever now. All right. It just shows you it's got nothing to do with who's on the judging panel or where someone sits on the judging panel. It's all about how good your posing is. And as I said, you had 19 of 36 winners on Saturday. So, and she wasn't sitting on that table. So,
that
definitely puts it into perspective, right?
Like, it puts it into perspective. But as we know, there'll be some sore losers out there, and they'll come up with something, and that's okay. But that just proves that point, at least, for sure.
Yeah. Now they'll say because Scott Morrell didn't show up, that's why we didn't win.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me just quickly cover maybe some of the other questions people asked about rookie shows, and we'll see that we covered them. So they asked about bikini results, we covered that. Opinion on lighting, we covered that. Opinion on second and third place in bikini, we covered that. What they're rewarding for bikini, we covered that. Who are the standouts? We covered that. Okay, so there was one here, and I had to Google what this meant, but it says, looks like the Waif Look is back. And I didn't even know what the hell that meant.
Right? Say it again.
Wafer, as in like wafer thin?
W-A-I-F.
As in like you look thin, tiny.
Yeah, so I didn't know what that meant, so I had to look it up. And it means like, thin, skinny, tiny. And it said like homeless.
But what referring to what do you think? Like,
okay, I'll keep reading it. Looks like the Waif Look is back. Immense. I won't say that word. It's to do with women. Whatever happened to healthy bodies with actual muscle, striated glutes on fitness girls and figure women? It's become sick. Bring back healthy days and clear criteria on divisions. So there's a lot in that one.
all right.
So let's
go bit by bit.
Let's go bit by bit. Okay. Yeah. So striations on fitness and figure girls, right? Striated glutes. So I think there was probably only one fitness girl that maybe had striations in her glutes, and that was the one that came third.
Yeah.
Good. Figure, I don't remember whether she had striated glutes, but it wouldn't surprise me because that's what is needed in figure. They're going to be pretty damn lean, and some.
Yeah. And her condition was awesome.
Yep.
So are they saying there wasn't enough of it, or they're saying they don't like it?
They don't like it.
They don't like it. Yeah. What happened to healthy bodies with actual muscle? Okay, so what you visibly think is a healthy body is obviously subject to difference of opinion, right? And with actual muscle. So I didn't see any, if they're talking about fitness and figure, the fitness and figure girls had a decent amount of muscle, and they all looked like healthy physiques, but that's hard to say. Like, someone definitely looks healthier when they're not in prep compared to when they're in prep and on stage, 100%. So we're not saying that the look is healthy per se, but I don't think they look waif. And they had muscle, and they had striated glutes if they needed striated glutes from a judging criteria perspective.
Yeah.
The last bit was bring back the healthy days and clear criteria on divisions. So I don't know when the healthy days were. If they're talking about level of condition and it not being healthy, I don't think the condition on the day, on that show day, was any different or any more extreme than any other show I've been to. So the fitness girls, as I said, the winner, Amy, needs to be leaner. And the figure girl, I'm sure she could improve on her conditioning too, right? So, and I've seen leaner figure girls and leaner fitness girls too. So if you're trying to dictate of how lean someone is and whether they're healthy or not, that's subjective, but they definitely some of those girls needed to be leaner for their division. Yeah.
What do you think, Scott, on that?
I think bodybuilding isn't inherently designed to be healthy. which is why contest prep is not a sustainable endeavor. We get in and then we get out. So if you get really, really, really lean, is there some recoil to that? Yes, but that's why you employ a good coach. You attenuate that. You put protocols in place and nutrition interventions to mitigate, the negatives that come with that. But it's like anything. If you play football, like Aussie rules, you can get knocked out, and that's not inherently healthy, is it? But people still play football, they get knocked out. It's just something that sometimes comes with it. You do gymnastics and you break your wrist or you break your arm. Like, it's not ideal, but sometimes that's what happens. So you don't necessarily sign up to do a bodybuilding show because you want to be healthy. Like, for the most part, most people will probably take away some really good habits that will lead them better than when they started, in my opinion. But in a sport that requires you to get down to, lower levels of body composition whilst trying to retain as much contractile tissue as you can, that's essentially the name of the game. Now, every division has its individualized criteria, yes, but if I've got some figure girls that I've got competing in 2024 or 2025, and they will need to have shredded glutes, like that will be the plan of attack. Fitness girls, it's not the plan to get their glutes shredded, but sometimes is that a byproduct of, unfortunately, having to diet them down. You can't help where you liberate fat mass from. Like, in an ideal world, most girls would take most of it off their hamstrings and their glutes, but it doesn't always work like that. But then some people, they just lose fat there first, and then they might have to work harder to take it off their upper back. And so to bring that in, a byproduct is that their glutes come in a little bit harder than they'd like. It's not like every single fitness competitor is going in there to try and get inherently unhealthy and to try and be unhealthy. But sometimes, and again, it's all context. Like, that's someone, whoever this person is, that's their opinion. It's open to interpretation. But from what I can see at that show, in no way, shape or form is the level of conditioning like unhealthy. I think if this person goes to like a national show in season B and gets a taste of like what elite conditioning really is, if they want to say, well, it wasn't really healthy, like, not that I would agree with it, but I could sort of see to an extent, because you're talking about some really, really high level conditioning. Not taking anything away from those that competed on the weekend, but if I'm looking at season B nationals versus the season A rookie show, it's chalk and cheese, and the conditioning will only need to get better for all of those competitors. So I think perhaps they just maybe don't necessarily have the right understanding of what the sport is. And again, I would argue that the older days were a lot more unhealthy because exercise science we don't have the same information that we do at the moment as what we did. We don't have the same information back then as what we do now. Mm-hmm. And so if anything, I'd say that there's still some not great coaches out there, but I'd say that there's a hell of a lot of good ones. And if anything, people are trying to level up. So I think I don't really agree with that statement. But again, they're obviously entitled to their opinion, but perhaps if you think that it's unhealthy, then maybe just don't go to those sort of shows.
Yeah, like if I sent you my blood work for when I was shredded and just said, hey, here's this guy's blood work, take a look at it. Are they healthy or not? And actually, I was healthy because all my markers were great, right? But then if I said, and here's a photo of the dude, right? And you see he's got like lines all over his ass. Like, okay, maybe not so healthy. So,
do you know, I can also, like, this was back before, I think this would have been in my 2018 contest prep. So we were trying to start a family. Anyway, as you do when that happens, you go and get all your tests and your levels done. Yep. And I was about 18, 20 weeks into my contest prep. And so I was pretty much ready to rock. I was very, very lean, having all of those markers done. And the feedback that I had was like, we haven't seen this sort of like detail before in terms of being everything super, super like as good as you can get from trying to have a baby perspective.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, crazy. So whereas most people, and back then you'd have people telling you look sick, you need to eat, your face looks so skinny, all of those sorts of things.
Yep.
Yeah, the negative bits and pieces that we get with that. So I think, you don't necessarily, just because you're looking in from afar and you might think that someone looks unhealthy, for all you know. Like, I would look at someone, I'm up on the Gold Coast at the moment. I was at Wenwild yesterday and I see all of these little kids sitting there eating chips, drinking Coke, like all of them obese, overweight. Mm-hmm. And my kids are sitting there eating watermelon and eating rice crackers and they're going crazy. And it's not a surprise to me because, and again, this is not coming from a place of judgment, but I look at what the parents are doing and what the kids are doing. And for me, that's really unhealthy.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to go and deliver that to them. So someone might look in and say it's unhealthy for these people to look the way that they're looking in a bodybuilding show. I would view someone that's overweight, obese, perhaps making dietary choices that we wouldn't make. I view that as unhealthy.
Yeah. I could almost guarantee that a bodybuilder is more healthy for majority of the year compared to a normal person.
Yeah.
It's only for the last, 8 weeks or something that they're probably classified as unhealthy because of how lean they are. But for the rest of the other, 40 weeks of the year or more, they're pretty damn healthy.
And even then, I would argue that I would say 90% of them are getting a higher intake of micronutrient-dense foods than probably the rest of the Australian population.
Yeah. But I can see where this person is coming from, because we do see some people that are way too depleted. They just look drawn in. They just look like they're not having a good time. They have no energy. I get that. And I've seen that in bikini girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get that. There's definitely there's a way that you could be healthier on a scale and still be the ultimate bikini.
For sure. But I don't think there was any of that on Sunday.
No, not that I could see.
Not that I saw. I was there literally from 9 a.m. in the morning till the show finished, and I didn't see any of that, man.
Yeah.
And even then, you're always going to have some outliers. Like there's always going to be one or two who unfortunately just perhaps weren't aligned with the right people to get them to where they want to get through. And that's part of this industry. And essentially, that's why we're doing what we're doing, to try and evoke change and perhaps help people be able to gauge, maybe what I'm doing isn't necessarily as good as what I could be doing, and perhaps there's a different approach.
And actually, okay, MG, you want to talk about that? What we're going to touch on next? So
yeah,
it's a good segue, right?
I actually tried to line that up for that.
You're too good, Scotty. So we'll talk about. She looked healthy. That person, Ash, right? She actually looked healthy. But talk about maybe the experience that she was having, and if you just experienced how unhealthy it was.
She looked amazing. And obviously, it's kind of a bit of a message to coaches out there, or if you're not sure, maybe seek help, because you don't understand that there's really big potential that you can do damage to athletes, especially young female athletes who are doing their first time around, first time competing, first time dieting.
How was the story?
Yeah, so basically, I assisted a very amazing young woman on the day who hadn't really had any support, was there by herself. She had friends there, but didn't have anyone there from a coaching perspective to support her. Didn't really have, or was given no sort of show day plan or show week plan, or really anything useful to use along the whole prep, really. And was really starting to get to a point where, post that event, the sport was going to be gone for her, because it was just not enjoyable at all. And when you start to dig into the details later post the show, so basically I actually, one of Scott's staff members, who's an absolutely lovely lady, asked if I could give her some assistance because she had no one there, and actually offered to pay me to help this young girl because they assisted her with her makeup and her tan. Of course, I said, no, I don't want to be paid. Where is she? Let me help her. And I stayed with her for all 6 divisions. She had 3 in bikini, 3 in sports, pumped her up, helped her with, what to eat and obviously when to be ready, and just stayed with her the whole time. And by the end of it, turned it into a really positive experience, but then spent some time with her yesterday, sort of delving deeper into what she'd been going through. And, some of the information that she'd been given is almost detrimental, not just to her physical health, but absolutely to her mental health as well. Like 3 meals a day of fish and green veg. We totaled this stuff up. It was like 600 calories, guys. Like mind-blowing stuff, right? And had we not have had that interaction, had we not have connected together, would she ever compete again? Who knows? And she's got a massive, massive future ahead of her. She's a great athlete. She's got a great physique. She's young. She's got a ton of muscle. And as coaches, guys, and even if I put my promoter's hat on as well, we literally have a responsibility to give back to the sport, protect the sport, and protect the industry, because it does have so many big pros. What we do has so many positives to so many people. It helps so many people out. It's such a positive sport. I was backstage yesterday and, she was pumping up, and this sweet girl who was competing next to her, who actually didn't place, was like, "Oh my God, you look so incredible, so amazing." Just about to go out and stand next to her and compete against her. Was like, there's so many great people in our industry, and I feel like there's just a handful, or more than a handful, Scott, isn't it? A big group of people who are not educated, who are going out and giving all this information that's actually causing people really, really, or potentially big health effects. And it is a little bit concerning. And we talk about it all the time, boys, I know, but that was probably one of the worst examples that I've seen. And there's more things that I'm not going to get into all of it. I'm certainly not going to name anyone. But it's really, we've got a responsibility. So all the coaches out there, just think, if you're not 100% sure, don't just wing it. It's not something that you should be winging or guessing or doing because somebody at the gym told you to do this or you saw it on some site. Reach out to somebody who's got experience and do it properly.
Yeah. It's really sad because, as we always preach on this, it's like we want everyone to walk away from a show and be like, "That was amazing. I want to do this again," and to make it a lifestyle and to want to continue to compete. So yeah, that story really hit me too when you told me that. It was crazy on the day. It was absolutely crazy. And then when you rang me the next day to tell me the finer details, I was like, "This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous."
Yeah.
And I actually saw some coaching conduct on the day that I wasn't really happy about. Obviously, I didn't say anything to anyone there, but people have to remember there's first-timer athletes. They're going to ask some silly questions, which is fine. They're first-timers. They're nervous. They don't know what they're doing. They're going to ask silly questions. The coach needs to react in a professional way, to shut people down, to have an attitude in response to maybe what you think is a silly question, but for them it's a curious question. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know when they should be doing things and how to do things. You need to guide them. You need to hold their hand through that experience. And there was some things that I heard coaches say and do, and I was just like, "This is not right. This is not professional. This is not how you should be interacting with the client, especially a first timer who's really looking up to you for guidance and for help." And I wasn't happy. I'm not confrontational at all, and obviously I don't want to affect that person's experience by me saying something to their coach. But just be really competitors. Be mindful on how you're treated. Really be mindful on how you're treated. If you're asking questions and you're getting told don't ask any questions, it's not a good response. You should get more out of your coach than that, for sure. And
100%.
You should be able to feel.
I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, you just don't know what you don't know, and it's something that's so out of the norm of what you normally do, right? You've been dieting and weight training for 6 months, and now this time's come. Your nerves are high. You don't know when to get dressed. You don't know when to eat food. You don't know when to drink. You don't know when to go from this part of the state. Oh my God, man! Like, we're experienced, and we sometimes have to go and check with staff and stuff. So, like, it is just such a difficult time, and I think any good coach is going to be super, super understanding, super, super patient, and very, very calm in the situation. And at least be there and be present, right?
Yeah. But other than that, it was a good show, and I was really happy with how the day went. There was a question that we got about what do you think about jealousy within the sport and the inability to celebrate other people's achievements. So you just covered a really good point. Someone's in the backstage lineup about to line up and they're complimenting each other, right?
For sure, man. And that happens a lot, right? That does happen a lot. Yeah, it really does. Like, it's one of the best things about our sport.
Yeah. There is jealousy in the sport for sure, and people not celebrating other people's victories. But if you're the victor and you're the winner, and someone's giving you a side eye and someone's not celebrating and they're sour about it, it's got nothing to do with you at all. It's got nothing to do with you and everything to do with them.
Yeah.
So don't let it affect your experience and your success. It has nothing to do with you at all.
For sure. And if you're not the victor, your attitude should just be simply this. And I think Matty Papa did a post about this the other day. Like, how you react to the situation, you got one of two ways. You can go, all right, that should have been me. I'm jealous. I'm going to be, have a stinking attitude and be filthy. Or that wasn't me. I'm jealous. How do I make that me? What steps do I put in place to try and make myself the winner next time? And like, come of it from an empowerment perspective, not from a jealousy perspective of coming from an evil place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you want to cover some other questions now? We can
Yeah,
go through some
so
other ones.
go for it.
Let's see what I got here for
Get
you
some
guys.
sciencey stuff for Scotty. He's ready.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. This is a good one for you, Scotty. All right. Uh, here we go. Okay, so someone asked about she knows when her cycle is going to be, right? And she knows that she's going to get it about 3 days before her show, right? And she says generally she looks visibly more watery in the stomach when she has her cycle. She's doing bikini and sports. Is there any ways, any things that she can do during peak week to kind of mitigate any of those symptoms?
So she gets her period 3 days
Before
before.
comp, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And does she have any digestive perturbations, like she struggles to metabolize food? Because there's some of the things that I would look at. A lot of the girls, when they're in their cycle, certain foods can leave them feeling very heavy. Perhaps they
Yeah.
don't digest as well. I think it's one of those things. I've had that with multiple competitors that have had their period or even gotten it on the day. You
Yeah.
just need to be very selective with foods that you're pushing in. Most girls will know certain foods that agree with them and certain foods that don't agree with them. Bearing in mind that you do need to take in a little bit more fluid because there's obviously fluid leaving your body. And also you need to be really on top of your electrolyte balance because that can also make a big difference as well when you are obviously having a bleed. But other than that, I think there's nothing that you can do about it. Like you can't just
There's not a magical
it would be
formula,
good
right?
if you could, but obviously you can't. One of the biggest things that I try and do with my athletes, typically a lot of women will be a little bit more, as you know, it's the way that they're designed to be. They can potentially be a little bit more stressed, elevated cortisol levels. So I try and I guess push or lean into our parasympathetic drivers. So things to try and keep them calm, listening to music. What you did with Amy is really, really good in terms of keeping competitors away. I actually try and keep all of my team away from any one position, and when they pump up, literally they're the last person to get called to the platform so that they're not worrying about anyone else because there's nothing that you can do about that. So just focusing on the things that are at your disposal. So, and just essentially monitoring the physique, you know, on a day-by-day basis in a few days out. And as you get closer, you know, hour by hour, and just being mindful that there's nothing that you can do about having that. And if you're stressing about it, you are potentially likely going to see an increase in cortisol, which can result in more edema. And so you just want to try and be as calm as you can. Usually it'll mean that you're not probably pushing in as much food as you would like, because typically for a lot of girls, you know, at that stage, nutrient partitioning is not amazing and digestion isn't great. So I just stick to foods that, you know, agree with you, stick to really light foods, steer clear of heavy type foods, and potentially even just back off the protein a little bit, because again, it takes a bit longer to metabolize. And obviously the last thing you want to do is be feeling bloated and full as a result of having your period. Whereas if there's less total food in your stomach, then there's going to be less distension and you're not going to actually feel like, you know, you are as bloated as perhaps, you know, you may be. But I think if you're doing those things, I don't think I've ever had a female that's had their period and had a pot on stage or anything. At the end of the day, if they're in condition and you manage those variables and you keep them calm, no one would even know.
Yeah, what you find is they feel bloated and heavy, but they don't look it.
No,
Yeah,
that's right.
no one even notices, trust me.
Yeah.
So if you're lean and you're in the correct condition for your category, 90% of the time you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, just managing food volume, what digests well is going to be super important. Make sure that you reduce your stress as much as you possibly can, obviously. One thing I have found, Scotty, though, is actually reducing water a little bit and sodium. I found has helped a little bit, because I find that...
As in the day of the show, or...
Yeah, maybe the day
out?
leading in, maybe 1 day or 2 days, or 1 day and the day of. Not to say like dehydrate them. It's like just a little bit less than what they're doing currently, which they should be really hydrated and having an adequate amount of sodium in their diet. But I find that when they got their cycle, it just takes longer to process it. So instead of it being in like a little bit of a surplus, just having a little bit less, it can process a little bit easier. That's what I've just found with most females. But I said we're talking about the minutiae that probably no one even notices either, right? Yeah, but it's just, you know, because they already feel discomfort, getting them to chug more water, it's like, oh, this is not good for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, have you ever had that, MG?
Yeah, regularly, man. Actually, I think even nationals last year we had it. But again, Scotty nailed it. We just tried to stay super, super calm.
Yeah.
And my feedback was like, there's no way I could even tell, like, and just keep reiterating that message, but definitely like being selective on what we put down. So like, for example, the pump up that day, the day before, we did use a little bit of like lollies and shit like that. We literally just used plain rice cakes on that day. We kept it really, really basic, really, really simple. But again, man, couldn't tell.
Yeah.
But I think the point Scotty raised about staying calm was probably the best weapon we had. Seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
And with the hydration side of it, so depending on the time of your division, it would typically, because obviously you don't want them dehydrated, most of the water we would want them to consume, I would have it onboarded early so that it might have been like 3-4 hours since they've actually had good amounts of fluid and they're just basically sipping to thirst so that there's not much sitting in their stomach.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Should we wrap it up, boys? MG, do you need to go?
I've got a little appointment at the chiro, which I'm very much looking forward to. I've got a couple of bulging discs in my neck, and I've had them for ages, and we do pretty well. We don't run into too many problems, but they're just a bit flared at the moment. I think I've just, because obviously you guys know I had the knee surgery, and me and Scotty have been working through getting these knees fired up again. Everything's going really, really well. I'm leg pressing full amounts again. I'm now hack squatting. I'm about 4 or 5 weeks into hack squatting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back heavy, but I think the hack squat compression on my back, it's right where the bulge is, has caused me. It's actually pain to the touch, and
Okay.
I think it's from the hack squat. I just think it's because it's just I've had such a big break from it because of the surgery that now that I'm back doing it heavy again, I'm feeling it. So in for a little adjustment this afternoon, which I'm very excited for.
Oh, awesome. We'll leave it there, boys. But if everyone liked the fact that we reviewed the show, reviewed the divisions, and kind of gave some positive and areas for improvement, if everyone liked that, let us know. And we're going to be at the next shows, right? So again, if you want us to give specific feedback on a specific person, call out to us. I know people DM'd us and we gave them the feedback now. So if you're interested in that, let us know. But other than that, we'll leave it here. We'll leave it here, and we will see everyone soon.
Sounds good.
Enjoy the rest of your break, Scotty.
Thanks, bro.
See you soon, brother. Take care.
See you
Friday
later.
night Sumos.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yes, that's it.
See you, boys.
Bye.